The winter storm may have passed, but many people are still stuck dealing with damage. We're in Wkyt County, where a group is helping people clean up.
Approval for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine appears to be on the horizon. Today, our vaccine team is comparing the different shots and their effectiveness.
And more than 2,000 food boxes traveled all the way from Texas to Kentucky for a giveaway. The connection between a former school and Georgetown College.
Wkyt News starts now with breaking news.
Just moments ago, advisors to the Food and Drug Administration recommended a third COVID-19 vaccine for use here in the U.S.
Now, the FDA still has to give the Johnson & Johnson vaccine final approval. That is expected, though, to happen soon. The one-dose vaccine could roll out as early as next week. One of the trials for the Johnson & Johnson vaccine involved hospitals here in Lexington. We're going to have more on Kentucky's role with the shot ahead for you on Wkyt News at 6. But certainly this is big news, and it gets a lot more vaccine out there to a lot more people.
And one dose.
And one dose.
Yeah. Many Kentuckians are still recovering from the latest rounds of severe winter weather that hit us. For most of the state, the lights are back on, but look at the map. For the northeastern region, more than 2,000 Kentuckians still are experiencing power issues. And some homes have fallen into disrepair.
That is the case in hard-hit Wkyt County. Downed trees and limbs are a big concern, especially for the elderly and the disabled. Our Shelby Lofton takes us there to meet one affected family. It's our top story at 5:30.
After days without power, stuck in the cold and dark, many families are now dealing with storm damage.
You hear the cracking, like a firewood, like a fire cracking when it's burning. And then the next thing you know, it's boom.
Kathy Parsons stayed awake with her 2 grandchildren night after night listening to trees fall. She says luckily none fell on her house, but her yard is covered in branches.
There's limbs laying everywhere. I mean, limbs on top of limbs and spread everywhere. And then some of them that had not completely detached from the trees.
She says she was devastated looking at her property after the latest round of storms.
There's no way that I could do that, because I can't walk around well enough to do it.
She reached out to the Christian Appalachian Project for help.
We're taking these fallen branches from the ice storm, chopping them up, and helping out by clearing out people's places.
They're taking a burden off her shoulders by putting weight on theirs.
50, 60 pounds.
They really want to help the community.
And if you or someone you know needs help with cleanup, contact the Christian Appalachian Project. Volunteers say they're ready to help with repairs. In Wkyt County, Shelby Lofton, Wkyt.
Well, the Parsons lost power for 48 hours, then lost their water. Kathy says some of her neighbors had no electricity for 8 days.
That was a long time. A Walmart store in Lexington is temporarily closing. The Palomar Center Walmart closed at 2 this afternoon and will stay closed until 7 Sunday morning. Walmart officials say this is to thoroughly clean and sanitize the building. They say in a statement that everything that they're doing is for the well-being of customers and workers. It's also part of CDC guidelines. Johnson County school employees now have both doses of the vaccine. The Paul B. Hall Regional Medical Center set up a clinic in the school gym. The CEO of the Regional Medical Center, Deborah Trimble, says working with the school systems just made sense.
We were the perfect group to do that because of our affiliation and how we were already working with those school systems. So we volunteered and said, we had the people and we could do this. And so the state sent us the vaccines for the teachers.
Once everyone had the shot, staff was asked to wait on the school bleachers for a few minutes in case there were any side effects.
As we continue to watch vaccines roll out across the state here, we are here to answer your questions. First up this afternoon, why would someone want the less effective Johnson & Johnson vaccine over one's reportedly more effective? Well, as we just reported, a panel of medical experts has recommended to the FDA the Johnson & Johnson vaccine be approved. The FDA says Johnson & Johnson's single-dose vaccine is about 66% effective at preventing moderate to severe COVID-19. The Moderna vaccine is considered 94.1% effective, and the Pfizer vaccine is 95% effective. However, both of those vaccines would require 2 doses. While the numbers may suggest Johnson & Johnson isn't as strong, the vaccines were tested differently, making direct comparisons challenging. Having a third vaccine, especially one that doesn't need the same specialized equipment to keep it ultra cold and requires just 1 dose, is expected to expand access to more Americans wanting a vaccination. Another question we received: do the COVID-19 vaccines contain a microchip or alter my DNA? COVID-19 vaccines do not contain microchips. The idea is based on a false narrative and misinformation campaign waged online, according to the Kentucky Cabinet for Health and Family Services. The vaccines also do not change or interact with your DNA in any way. The vaccines teach cells how to make a protein that triggers an immune response. The material in the vaccine never enters the nucleus of the cell, which is where our DNA is kept. This means it cannot affect or interact with our DNA in any way. For more information from the vaccine team, open your smartphone's camera, aim it right there at that QR code you see on your screen, and the link to the vaccine team page should pop up. And as always, you can email those questions to vaccineteam@wkyt.com.
Rounds of heavy rain expected to move in through the weekend. Thunderstorms, along with several inches of rain, may lead to flooding in some areas. Meteorologist Adam Berniston is breaking it down in his first forecast. The ground was already saturated, and this is just adding to that.
That's exactly right, Sam. As we saw with those winter storms, all that ice, snow melted away, fortunately for many of those communities. But now the ground is so saturated with all of that moisture, along with today's rainfall, along with tomorrow's rainfall, and more rainfall coming in for this Sunday as well. So a lot to keep a track of with that rain, and that's going to lead to those high water issues, flooding, potentially flash flooding for some areas. Here's a look outside at Morehead State University First Alert Sky Cam. You see the gray skies out there, and it's just going to continue on for much of this evening. Fortunately, a lot of that rain, at least the heavier batches of rain out of our region. You see just some scattered light rain here around parts of Fayette County. Out east down the road towards Morehead, towards eastern Kentucky. Still some moderate batches there, but we will see a break out there for this evening. And we have the system that's setting up across the region with more that are going to follow it up. And that brings us that flood watch out there. So we'll be watching that risk and much more. I'll have the full forecast coming up in just a bit.
Thank you, Adam. The House passed Kentucky's election reform bill today. It would make some of the election procedures implemented last year during the pandemic permanent. The legislation includes keeping absentee voting, early in-person voting, voting centers, and the online election portal. The bill cleared after a 93-4 vote. It now goes to the full Senate for consideration.
A Kentucky man is accused of beating a pregnant woman until she miscarried. Our county-by-county coverage at 5:30 begins in Laurel County. Deputies arrested Freddie Wkyt this morning. He's charged with fetal homicide, assault, strangulation, and meth possession. Deputies say Wkyt hit a woman with a wooden board, choked her, and punched her, leaving the woman with cuts and severe bruising. She told police the beating caused her to miscarry. Wkyt is being held in the Laurel County Correctional Center. In Magoffin County, State Police are trying to find out what caused a deadly crash. Police say 59-year-old Marcus Reisner was driving yesterday on Punchin Creek Road. We've pointed that area out here on the map. Reisner's car ran off the road, hit a tree, and flipped. Investigators say he died at the scene. No other vehicles were involved.
A special connection between Kentucky and Texas is helping feed those in need.
Yeah, folks with the Redemption Bowl brought plenty of spirit and food to Georgetown. As WKYT's Olivia Russell explains, there is history between the organization and Georgetown College.
With the pandemic, with everything else that's going on, food is just a great need.
Thousands of boxes from Texas are headed to homes in Georgetown.
Yeah, we've been fighting for the food. We've had to fight for food to help people in need, but that's okay. That's what we're built for.
Redemption Bowl organizers Vint Hargrave and Kiev Tatum have held about 100 food drives in the Lone Star State, but wanted to expand to Kentucky.
We just came to love our neighbor here in Kentucky and serve the same way that we'd been serving throughout COVID.
These Texas men chose Georgetown for a reason. The college offers the Bishop Scholars Program in honor of Bishop College, a Texas HBCU which closed in 1988.
Bishop went bankrupt back in the late 80s, and they don't have a place to call home. So Georgetown College has become the home for Bishop College, and that helps us to keep Bishop College alive here at Georgetown College.
Georgetown was the first college to help with the Redemption Bowl thanks to this meaningful connection, and they're hoping it's not the last.
The heads of the university, the hearts of the church, and the hands of the community coming together to create this communiversity.
In Georgetown, Olivia Russell, WKYT.
I like that. Communiversity. I like that. The Redemption Bowl is making 4 stops in Kentucky. The last food drive will be in Barberville tomorrow.
This weekend, you'll have the chance to help those in need.
Our parent company, Gray Television, is partnering with the Grand Ole Opry and Circle TV to host a benefit concert. It will help people going without after winter storms and, of course, the ongoing pandemic. Proceeds will go to Feeding America. It supports food banks across the nation, including God's Pantry. Country artists like Haley Witters, Chris Jansen, and Travis Tritt will be performing. Host Bobby Bones explains why programs like Feeding America are so important.
With Hunger and Feeding America, people that don't have the means to buy food, or also other things are being left out, like medical expenses, healthcare, mortgage, rent. Like if you can't buy food, you can't pay for other stuff either. And this at least is the first step to getting people back on their feet.
The benefit will air right here on WKYT. It is Saturday night at 9.
A new design for the state's firefighters license tag coming up. More from the Southern Kentucky Fire Department with the winning design.
I'm Bill Bryant. After Black History Month, where does the conversation go now about race relations and equity in Kentucky? And President Biden is off to Texas to survey damage from some horrible ice storms.
As Black History Month comes to a close, we continue to look at how the conversation about race relations and equity in Kentucky moves forward.
Bill Bryant has details in today's Bottom Line.
Good evening. During this Black History Month, we have presented several stories on our newscasts about some of the important contributions of African Americans to Kentucky. But where do the conversations go from here as we look to the future? Dr. Danny Moore takes up that question and others on this weekend's edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. Moore is the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at EKU.
I think right now the conversation shifts to anti-racism. The conversation shifts to organizations having these uncomfortable and difficult conversations. And I think that's where progress happens, when we're in the room or we're in spaces and we're talking about how we move forward or how we eradicate racism.
Interesting discussion also on Kentucky Newsmakers. Kentucky Secretary of State Michael Adams talks about his push to make permanent some of the election rule changes that were put in place in response to the pandemic. He got a win in the House today. You can see Kentucky Newsmakers Sunday morning at 6 on WKYT and Sunday morning at 10 on the CW Lexington. President Biden is off to Texas on a visit with 2 goals in mind. He is surveying damage and the continuing struggles from the severe winter weather that hit earlier this month. And while he's in the Lone Star State, the president and his wife Jill are encouraging people to get their coronavirus shots. It's Biden's first trip to a disaster area during his presidency. And Kentucky U.S. Senator Rand Paul announcing he will seek re-election next year. The Republican first won his seat in 2010. He was re-elected in 2016. He also quickly ended a bid for president back in 2016. Bill Bryant, WKYT.
Several fire departments across the state are helping redesign the state's firefighters license tag, and Corbin Firefighters design was chosen. The state's old firefighter tag features a fireman and the United States flag colors. Firefighter Daryl Thompson says having Corbin Fire Department's design selected is an honor.
It's really nice, we're a small department, in eastern Kentucky, and it's nice to know that a guy and a bunch of guys that work together and fight fire together can come up with a design that everybody else in the state likes.
Congratulations. Active or retired firefighters can buy the new license tags.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with meteorologist Adam Burniston.
Well, it has just been a gloomy evening out there with chilly rain and just gray skies all around. After enjoying a few beautiful days, we knew rain was coming eventually. And into this weekend, we could be facing some new issues with not winter threats, but now almost a spring flood threat coming in, especially there on Sunday. Temperatures outside right now into around 37 in Georgetown, 39 Moorhead and Lexington, 44 there in Pikeville. Still some light rain you're seeing coming down on many of these sky cams out there, and a lot of it may not even be showing up on radar for some of you. We're seeing a little bit more activity there just to the south in Garrett County, southern Madison, some light rain just on the northern half of Fayette County into Bourbon County. Same thing as you travel out to the east. As I mentioned, a lot of that misting, slight spitting rain usually doesn't show up well on radar just because it's so fine, so little out there. This is as our pattern setting up. We have one low that's continuing to push off to the east, a stalled out front going to be setting up right on top of us, and that's why we have flood watches that will go into effect late Saturday and then last through Monday morning. Pretty much all of Kentucky, except up near the tri-state area, going to be included in that flood watch. The primary threat, though, mostly along I-64 and areas to the south. Everyone's in the risk, but we're just going to be seeing heavier rainfall totals a little bit further south still. Here's a look at future radar. As I mentioned, we keep it fairly dry tonight, at least for this evening. Still some misting, though, action coming in. There's another round coming in for late tonight, though, into early Saturday morning. That's going to be providing some more heavy rain for parts of central, mostly southern and southeastern Kentucky. That goes away through the later morning hours and into the afternoon, where we have some dry time that we may be able to enjoy 50s, maybe even 60s in the forecast. But unfortunately, by Saturday evening, Saturday night, this next round is coming in. This is another low that moves in from the west, brings some heavy rain, and then starts pushing off to the south and southeast. So that's why we're really focusing on parts of southern and southeastern Kentucky with parts of central Kentucky along that I-64 corridor, seeing that heavy potential for flooding issues, maybe some flash flooding issues as well. This is one of the models here that you see is spitting out around 3, even almost 4 inches of rain. Another model is trimming down that northern edge of heavy rain, but still a significant hit here in parts of the bluegrass and into southern Kentucky with 4+ inches of rain. So going to be a lot of rain coming our way. And as I mentioned, temperature-wise, going to be into the 50s, even 60s through this weekend. And then as we head towards next week, we'll keep those 50s around, but the pattern is remaining active as more rain comes through the forecast.
You're consistent.
An Amazon shopping spree lands a little girl in some hot water. Coming up, how her family is trying to use this as a teachable moment.
Well, a cautionary tale for grown-ups who, sometimes let the kids play with their phone or their tablet. That's not too unusual. Well, a little girl racked up $3,000 on her grandparents' Amazon account.
Well, CBS's Naomi Ruckham has more on her shopping spree and the lessons her family hopes to share in today's Consumer Alerts.
Leah Grabowski is awfully smart for a 7-year-old.
Leah's pretty quiet, but evidently very mischievous, right, Leah? So she is a leader of the pack. So she is the one who always comes up with different ideas.
She recently had one of those brilliant ideas while using her grandparents' iPad.
Evidently, Leah got bored with kids' YouTube and decided to go on a shopping spree on her Amazon account.
Leah's grandfather told her she could choose a gift worth $20, but within about 15 minutes, Leah had picked out 80 different items, racking up a $3,200 bill. The second grader had to admit to her parents what she'd done.
Smartwatches, walkie-talkies.
While she bought toys for herself, Leah also got some gifts for her cousins, and she ordered 2 refrigerators for her grandparents on accident.
In the afternoon, some of the boxes came, and then the next day, even more boxes came, and the next day, even more boxes came.
They were able to cancel a few shipments before they arrived, but the rest had to be returned, and Leah's grandparents are still waiting to get all of their money back.
Well, clearly Leah's a very smart girl, but did you ever imagine she could take it this far?
No, never. Not in our wildest dreams. You have to start much sooner than 7 explaining to children that money doesn't grow on a tree.
As a consequence, Leah lost her screen time privileges.
Leah, did you learn your lesson?
Yes.
A lesson learned the hard way. Naomi Ruckham, CBS News, New York.
Maybe she's going to be a personal shopper one day for folks. As another consequence for her shopping spree, Leah had to spend her holiday money on a gift for her class. Her parents and grandparents say they wanted the second grader to fully understand her actions. I'm sure she is aware of it now, Sam, right?
The boxes just kept coming and coming and coming. All right. That's a good story for later on when she's older.
Yes.
Stay with us. More on how Kentucky lawmakers are working to fix major issues with the state's unemployment system next on WKYT News at 6.